Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria says it's lifted the ban placed on 9 commercial banks. The ban prevented the lenders from accessing forex through the official interbank forex market. The 9 had been suspended for failing to remit funds belonging to the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation. And of course, the ban created tension in the financial system, triggering a crash in the stocks of most of the indicted lenders. Now, the foreign exchange market also reacted negatively, with the naira slumping further on the parallel market to close at 422 the dollar. Industry experts had appealed for leniency to avoid causing a run on the banks.
We've had engagements with the body of CEOs, and they have been interacting amongst themselves. And I'm happy to tell you today that the banks that were hitherto banned have been released from the ban. And the reason is because all of the banks, after discussions and engagements under the auspices of the body of CEOs and the CIBN, have all submitted credible repayment plans, which we, the central bank, found acceptable. So as a result of that, all those banks have been reinstated in the foreign exchange market.
Now, Deji Badmus joins me from Lagos with an update on the government's latest move. Deji, as always, welcome to the show. Now, of course, the ban had caused some panic across Nigeria's markets. We saw the naira weakening to 420 naira per dollar. Now, what impact has the news of this lifted ban had on the market and, of course, the naira today?
Well, Uche, the ban was only lifted last night, and we haven't seen any effect at all. As a matter of fact, in the parallel market, we're seeing some kind of weakening. The naira is now trading for 425 to the dollar. So, but the expectation is that by tomorrow and going into the weekend and by next week, when these banks will will go into the interbank forex market full steam, we'll begin to see some kind of impact, and we'll begin to see the pressure now, especially in the black market, come down.
Now, Deji, the banks were banned for not transferring over $2 billion in deposits to the government account. Give us some insight into why this ban was instituted in the first place.
Well, the reason the CBN gave was very simple. These banks were actually in, they were actually keeping the dollar deposits of the NNPC, that's the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. The initial amount they were actually keeping was around $5 billion. And at some point last year, around September last year, as a matter of fact, the government set up what it called, the government actually gave a deadline now to all the banks who are in custody of government money now to transfer this money to the Treasury single account. Now, these banks, of course, started transferring the money, but they didn't transfer everything. So they transferred the money, and it got to a point of around $2.3 billion. They kept the money. The excuse they gave at the time was that there was no dollar for them to actually buy and transfer. But, you know, the central bank just got fed up with their explanation and decided to impose the ban. And that's the reason 9 of them were banned. At some point, one of them, the United Bank for Africa, eventually paid up. And now these other 8 banks that are left have come up with suggestions. They've actually come up with a suggestion on how, a plan now on how to repay the money. So the expectation is that they will stick to that plan, and that they will repay the money by the deadline that they have all agreed and set for themselves.
Now, Deji, like you mentioned, the ban was lifted just last night. But how has this impacted confidence in Nigeria's financial sector?
Well, we still have to wait and see what actually happens. But the general expectation is that confidence will definitely come back, because these 8 banks now, their customers had actually been very worried. There had been that loss of confidence because most of them found it difficult to do especially dollar transaction now. But now that these banks are now back in the forex market, the expectation is that confidence will return, and that their customers will definitely come back and begin to do business with them. Because what happened was that when these banks were actually banned from the forex market, most of their customers now had to start approaching the parallel market. And that's one of the reasons analysts are saying we're seeing that pressure in that segment of the market. So no question at all that confidence will return and that things are calm now. People actually appealed that the suspension be lifted, and then it just wouldn't make sense at all now that Nigeria is in a recession to now suspend these banks. But then the CBN says it will ensure that the banks, of course, keep to that payment plan that they have actually put forward and that the CBN has accepted.
Well, many thanks for those insights. Deji Badmus joining us in Lagos there. Well,